Hi everyone, it's Joanna Grant here. I'm with the Art Foamies design team, and I've been having great fun playing with my new Art Foamies stamps since joining the design team. And I've been creating pages and pages of fun little pieces that I can use in my mixed media art and my art journals. And my idea is I'm going to use these as collage elements in those media. But what I've found is I'm not always great at getting perfectly good images when I'm stamping. Sometimes I'm not putting enough paint on the stamp. Sometimes I'm not getting good coverage or not pressing just right when I take the stamp to the paper. But I wanted to share with you today how you can save images that come up from your stamps that aren't so great and still make use of them. So let's get started and I'll show you what I'm doing here. The stamps and the images I've made so far are with acrylic paints. Oh, excuse the noise there, I'm throwing things around the studio. These are made with acrylic paints, and of course you've got some negative space that the stamp creates when you make it. What I have found, and this is a great technique I think you'll really enjoy, is that by adding watercolor in a variety of forms to this space, I can jazz up these prints and make these ones that aren't so great as good as the ones that turned out well. So let me show you how I do that. I use a variety of watercolor products to do this. So you can use watercolor markers. Here I've got some Tombows and some Ecoline watercolor markers, and these are really great to use when you want to do precision work to fill in your stamps and make them a little more exciting. The other thing I'm using is some liquid watercolor. These are Sargent Art's liquid watercolor. I believe they're actually children's school supplies, but they work great for this kind of project, and they are liquid, so those work. And I'm also using, I found in my stash of art supplies, some of my Twinkling H2Os, which are pots of watercolor, and they are sparkly. So this is a really neat thing to try too. So let me just show you what I've done with these products and how I use them. So your acrylic paint acts as a resist to watercolor, and that makes it really easy just to use a coloring approach to filling these in. Let me show you another one I've already started on over here. So here's a good example. So I had a variety of stamps on this piece of cardstock, and as you can see, a couple of them didn't turn out as nice as I would have liked. There's a bit too much white space in here that I just didn't get good coverage with. This one, same as this, and all I've done is fill in using my watercolor marker, my yellow watercolor marker, to fill it in. I could do some more work on this to jazz this up some more with some other effects probably, but already it looks better than this did. So you can see how effective that is. And literally that is just coloring in all the white areas. And you can do a number of layers if you want to add depth and make the colors richer. Literally just coloring in. And so the paint, the watercolor paint in this marker, is really only adhering to the white surfaces, because the colored surfaces are acrylic and act as a resist. And you can take your markers over top if you want to change the color slightly of the underlying acrylic. You can or you can't. But with these markers, these watercolor markers allow you to get pretty precise with your work. And you can see already how that's really improving the look of that stamped image, pardon me. So I would do that. I'd go around with different markers, different colors. I did that here with these leaves that didn't translate so great, but now they look a whole lot better with the markers done over top. And you can even do this, of course, even with prints that turn out good. Like this pansy print turned out pretty good, but it was white in the center. I thought, no, I want some color or contrast. So again, these awesome markers, watercolor markers, make it super easy to really enhance your Art Foamies prints. Now I'll just finish this one up and then I'll show you some samples of other ones I did. So that's with markers. So any kind of watercolor marker will work like this. And then look, isn't that print with a second layer of that yellow? Very interesting. So again, those are watercolor markers, and there's all different kinds on the market that you can try. Let's look at this other one. Another one of those pansy ones I did. This one I used my liquid watercolors with. So that's these ones here. Let me show you how they work. And this is, I'm a little messy with these, so bear with me. Just pouring a little bit into the cap. And just with a small brush. I've got it all over me already. Just with a small brush, I'm going to add it to, here's a good example right here. Let's try this guy, or this guy. He didn't turn out so great. So just dipping straight into this. You could water this down as well. But just play around with your various watercolors and try this, because it doesn't matter if it doesn't turn out great. It's only a stamped image and you can use it or not. That would be your choice. But you can see how interesting this can be, depending how I choose to layer this with maybe some other colors. Because this is a multicolored print, I might actually want to use multicolors on it to fill it in. And this one here is this same pink. And it turned out great. And I ended up starting with just the paint in the white areas, but then I ended up doing a wash over it overall with the pink too, and that really deepened the color. And now it looks fantastic. These leaves were done with it as well, just to brighten up some so-so prints that didn't come out terribly great. Another product, that you can use, as I mentioned, are the twinkling H2Os. So these, if you haven't tried these, they're little pans of watercolor in these little pots, and you have to put a bit of water into them first to get them ready to go. So if you just spritz in some water and let it set for a few minutes, the twinkling H2Os will be ready to work with. So let me show you how they work, and they're fun, and I've done a couple of different things with them. Let me show you this print over here. Alrighty, so here we go with these flowers. So this one didn't turn out so great, so I used one of the markers already, one of the yellow markers already for this, and just filled it in. But then what I've added since over top is a bit of the yellow of the twinkling H2Os. So that gives now a shimmer effect. The same with this pink one here. It was a layer of a pink pen, a pink watercolor marker, and then over top of it a layer of pink twinkling H2Os. So again, that's going to add some sparkle. And that's simply done, again with a brush in this case. Just to go over it. Now I don't know that you'll be able to see the sparkle on the camera. Probably not. But it acts as a real shimmery effect. Adds a real shimmery effect to the print. And I think it's just so great that we can salvage prints that we're not that crazy about, and make them very usable for putting into our arty projects. So I've let that dry a bit, but you can see how it's brought up the color. And if it were dry and we were able to catch the camera at the right angle, you may be able to catch the shimmer of that. That'll be wet now, but perhaps the pink will show. But there is definitely a shimmer to that. Now, twinkling H2Os are not inexpensive paints to use. They're a bit on the pricey side, but you've got other options there if you like this technique and want to try it with your art foamy stamps. And that's what you can do is just the dollar store, your Walmart, your Michael's craft store, all have very inexpensive sets of shimmery metallic watercolor pans. This one was less than $5 at Michael's, I think, on sale. So those type of options are great for you too. And they'll work just as well as the products I've shown here, with the acrylic acting as a resist to these paints. And what else can you do? What else can you do to salvage prints? Well, I've got some more here that are not looking so great. These ones I was getting near the end. My poor stamp buddy was working really hard to get the last bit of stamps done the other day. These ones are kind of faint, so I'll probably use some watercolors on them. Or even some regular markers could work as well, but the watercolor's neat with the resist effect of the acrylics underneath it. But don't forget, you can also add markers of any kind. I'm going to highlight some of these once they're dry, maybe do a bit of work with a black ink to bring them to life. A bit of doodling as well will help. So think about this when you've got some prints that you're not that happy with, and you can certainly salvage them and make them usable for yourself. I hope you've enjoyed today's lesson, and I will see you again real soon with more Art Foamies projects. And remember, if it doesn't move, stamp it. See you next time.